Hi kids, so for today's activity, we will have a short discussion regarding your nutrition. But of course, we will not be discussing everything. We'll leave that to your CPH lecture. So ang atuwa lang is to have a certain overview for you to better understand the activity that you will be doing. Now, what I would like to explain is your four general methods of nutritional assessment. So this is important for you to know under what category is your body mass index computation, and that is actually your activity for today. So we have your anthropometric assessment, your biochemical assessment, your clinical assessment, and your dietary assessment. Now, this for nutritional assessment, so far, if you try to think about it, nabuhat or na-experience na ni nato tanan. So to give you a short definitions lang pod on each of these nutritional assessments, para at least you would have an idea unsa ni sila. So let us start with your anthropometric assessment. So what is this assessment? This is actually the most common type of nutritional assessment, and it is usually done by determining your height and weight. So these are very common, especially in children. So this height and weight are compared to certain standards, and it should be repeated on an individual to note the degree of change in nutritional status over time. So, syempre, magdepende lang po na siya, and your BMI is actually under this type of assessment. Since, syempre, kabalo ko na uban sa inyo ha, kabalo unsa man gyud ning BMI, basig ma-remember pa pud gani ninyo unsa ang formula, and it actually involves your height and weight computation. How about your biochemical assessment? Now, biochemical assessment involves your urine and your blood laboratory testing. So, kani we are all or we are very familiar with this one, especially in terms of our profession, since before you enter into college, one requirement is your physical examination, and under which you need to perform or you need to undergo certain laboratory testings, which are kana kuha og dugo, collect mo og ihi, sumona na naamoy complete blood count or your CBC test, and then for your urine you have your urinalysis and even your stool for your fecalysis exam. So next is the clinical assessment. So these are physical assessment of an individual for signs and symptoms suggestive of nutritional health and or clinical pathology. Now actually this is very common, and this is done by doctors. Labi na katong mga nagapa-check up. And diba, one thing that is usually done is to check for your signs and symptoms. And from there, doctors would assess as to what you will be doing next. Or pwede po gani, diretso na, kung common signs and symptoms na siya, so ilahan na dayon na siyang ma-assess and mahatagan na po dayon ta og certain advices or whatever needs to be done. And the last is your dietary assessment. So these are collection of information regarding actual and habitual dietary intake, like for example, food recall and food frequency questionnaire. This is still common, especially sa katong mga nagapa-admit, labi na if ang sakit or ang mga signs and symptoms is related to mga stomach pains and such, and 'di ba? One thing na gina-ask ana sa mga physicians is ang inyuha food recall man gyud ang mahitabuan na. So what to do for the BMI computation activity now? So before I start discussing as to what you will do on your BMI computation activity, let me discuss first what is BMI. So BMI stands for your body mass index, and it is a simple index of weight for height that is commonly used to classify overweight and obesity in adults. Syempre, I know all of you are already familiar with BMI, and I think kita man gyud tanan nakatry mag-compute also for BMI. And the two most important information in order to compute for your BMI is your weight and height. And BMI is actually a rough guide or mura siya makonsider as a screening test for us to evaluate if we are already overweight or if we are already under being obese. Siyempre, important ding makabaluta kung overweight or obese ta since that would already tell us na posible na basig prone na gyud kayo ta na magsakit-sakit or poor na gyud ang ato ang health status. Now, BMI is defined as a person's weight in kilograms divided by the square of the height in meters. So this is already the formula on how to compute your BMI. And BMI actually provides one of the most useful level of measure of overweight and obesity, as what I have explained a while ago, as it is the same for both sexes and for all ages of adults. So let me proceed now with the instructions on how you would go about your BMI computation activity. Now, the very first thing that you need to do is to interview 5 different individuals to assess their BMI. Student would have to ask for a consent as to taking pictures of the individuals being interviewed. But as to taking pictures, kids, since there are some individuals who are not really comfortable in terms of attaching their photos, placing it in a document and showing it to other individuals pa. So we came up with this solution. So let the interviewee hold a paper with their names written on it and place it in such a way that the paper would cover their faces for privacy purposes. So we'll explain this one further later. May example po ako for that. And then, the individual photos will be attached on the Word document along with their names, showing also all necessary information needed to compute for the BMI. So, as to what are this necessary information, ipapakita ko lang din po. Now, ganito po yung itsura on how you would take the photo of the one you are interviewing. Not necessarily nga nakadako ang inyuhang paper ha, basta as long as it would cover the face. And then on the paper, ang nakasulat dapat is the complete name of that person. Now, duha ang purpose ani kids. You might be wondering. Siyempre na-mention na nako ang first and that is for privacy purposes. And second, even if dili na mo makita manggod ang face, we could actually see the body and this could serve as a proof na nag-interview yun mo and we could actually relate the interpretation of your result of this individual sa kung unsa gyud ang iyahang itsura sa iyahang body. Siyempre, basig matingala ta, inyuhang interpretation obese, tapos ang inyuhang gi-interview pagtan-aw na mo sa picture ingani kapayat, imposible na pud kaayo siya. So again, the second reason is as proof for evidence na you really did the interview. Now, as to the necessary informations needed, so kanilang po na ang inyuhang kailangan. So, of course, ask for the complete name, family name first, and then the first name, and then the middle initial. Next is the birthday, and then next is the age at weighing. So, pakita lang po na ako ni kids kung unsaon pag properly compute for the age, and then you write down the sex, then the height, and the weight. And then next will be the computation. Now, after you place the 5 different individual information sa inyong. So next is place a table summarizing the names of the persons you have interviewed, the BMI numerical value, the one that you have already computed, and then the interpretation. So place a table para isahan na po namo na makita kung unsa man tong inyuha mga BMI na na-compute and unsa to ang ilahang interpretation. Take note, the BMI numerical value here refers to the one that you have computed. So katong gipakita na ko kaganina kids, computation lang gyud inyuhang i-present. And the next, how to compute for age. Actually, common sense somehow naman po ni siya, but just to present, kaya diba, as emphasized on the information age at weighing, meaning consider the number of years, months, and days na katong inyuhang gi-interviewhan in terms of the age of weighing. So that is why necessary na ibutang ninyo ang birthday and necessary na mahibalan po jud ang day na kung kanusa ninyo siya gi-interview. But since the same magyuta og day tanan sa kung kano sa man ta mag-interview. So this is just an example. So as you can see, the date of weighing is around July 6, June June 30, 2020 rather, and the birthday of such interviewee is around August 24, 2004. So as you can see, the answer, 15 years, 10 months, and 6 days. Since, di pa man gyud siya 16 years old at this moment, since wala pa man gyud siya nag-birthday, so that is why this is how you are going to write the age at weighing. So how to compute for BMI? There are actually two ways in computing your BMI. It could be the metric or the English system. Now, ang difference namang yun sa duha diri kids is in terms of the units of the weight and height. For the metric, weight is in kilograms and then height is in meters. For the English, weight is in pounds and height is in inches. But for us to have a uniform way of computing your BMI and way of presenting, especially in your written output, so let us just use the metric system. Since dili man kita fond in using pounds in terms of weight, so dirita sa ato ang metric na naka-kilograms and naka-meter. For this one, this is just to show you an example as to how to compute your BMI properly. Now remember, in our formula, height is in squared. So meaning, here, height, which is 1.75 meters, doblehon nato na siya. So that is why the square of height na inyuhang ibutang dito sa pag-compute is 3.06 meters squared. While for the weight, walay problema, kilograms, so that is 75 kilograms. And then our answer here is 24.5. So 75 divided by 3.06, that is 24.5. Now, this BMI numerical value, this 24.5, so this is how we will interpret it. Meron po tayong standard na interpretation of your BMI and standard categories for each. Now, saan po under si 24.5? Dito lang din po siya sa normal. So, as you can see, the BMI range for the normal category is 18.5 to 25. So, pasok pa din po siya sa normal. So, just follow this. Now, syempre, this is the body that we would expect in terms of each category of your BMI. Now, kung yung tag normal, then that is the normal body weight. But as it increases, as the category differs, pag abot og obese, labi na kay na class 1, class 2, then kani yun ang atuang i-expect na itsura sa certain individual. So, mo nito siya kung ang giingon ka ganina kids na ang individual photo sa inyong gipang interview is very important for us to properly assess na tama gyud pud ang interpretation in relation na pud jud na siya sa kung unsa man jud pud ang body sa kato na individual. Now for this one, specifics lang pud jud ni siya. So we'll post this in on Canvas. Bale, for us to have a specific lang as to unsa gyud sila na classification or category, i-relate na dayon nato na siya sa height of weight. So for example, if ikaw na 6-footer and then ang imuhang weight, this one, ikaw na 6-footer and ang imuhang weight, kunwari is naa diri sa 200 pounds. So, asa ka na category? Since it is already color yellow, then you are already overweight. So, specific type lang po ni siya of categorizing BMI. And then for this one, kids, ano lang ni siya, murag nice to know lang po ni siya for you to have an idea as to what should be our ideal weight in terms of our height. So, just to present lang po, kay, di ba, labi na karon ng mga panahon na naka-lockdown, pandemic, nalang ta perminti sa balay, and basig dili na tayong anak ka bodily conscious. So, just a gentle reminder lang. So, for me, since naamang ko around diri sa 5'3", 5'4", and this is the ideal weight. So, happy to say na at least napagyapon ko under sa ideal weight. So, we'll also post this one on Canvas. So there is actually a little bit of a difference in terms of the, not actually the computation, but rather it is for the interpretation of the BMI of children. Now, The BMI interpretation for children is actually evaluated using age and gender-specific charts that take into account different growth patterns for gender. Kumbaga class, we need to take into account the age. When we say children manggod, ang children diri is actually from age 5 to 19 years old. And syempre, if we will not consider the age, remember, growing ba ang mga children. And since growing man ni sila, kung i-compare na to si 10 years old sa 5 years old, then there is a really very big difference. So kung ato ang magkong basehan ang sa adult, then na ay discrepancy. Or even ang gender diri as a children, isipon lang po jud nato na generally speaking, ang mga lalaki, mas tangkad man gyud na sila sa babae, and in terms of build, mas nakuon man gyud ang mga lalaki. So, muna na medyo na ay difference in terms of the interpretation sa mga bata. So, mo ni siya, as you can see, natay table diri sa baba representing the BMI levels for children. And actually, ang age gani nagisulat diri is starting from 2 years old. Now, if you try to look at the BMI levels, it is actually presented in percentile. And di ba, medyo libog man kayo ni siya na thought, so don't worry. Ako i-upload sa Canvas na naka-specify yun siya. Age and ang gender, and then kung unsa-unsa pa ng mga necessary information na kailangan. So, again, just double check, kay basig manggug i-take into account or basig mag-interview mo og mga bata dira sa inyo. So, walay problema. Nalang po tayo different na interpretation. So, just to remind, diba, the Filipino Pyramid Food Guide for today's lifestyle. Kaya again, because of what is happening now, sedentary naman gyud kay atong lifestyle. Even ako anak kids, guilty kayo ko, sige lang lingkod, kaon, tanaw salida, tanaw anime, Netflix, ug kung unsa-unsa pa, dili na kay nagalakaw-lakaw, hindi man pwede maglaag-laag. So muna na, just a gentle reminder lang po. Drink a lot of water, eat most of the rice, the noodles, the breads, and cereals. O, labi na ang noodles, diba? Kay appeal pag yun na siya sa mga rasyon. Eat more of the vegetables, fruits, or juices. Eat some of the fish, dry beans, nuts, eggs, and eat a little of the fats, oil, sugar, and salt. Especially kanit yung sugar, kanit guilty gud kay ko ani. So other guidelines and instructions will be posted on Canvas, and if you have any further mga questions pa, comments, or unsa pa man naaba mo suggestion, then feel free to message me or kung pwede dito mismo sa GC so that everyone could read and also have an idea or at least basig sa imo og concerns po, then matubag lang po na ako gisahan. So that ends our discussion. And I hope you will have a nice day. So now, by this time around, you may now proceed checking your canvas. Thank you.